So welcome to another very special TechRise event today, where we have our women, trans, non-binary guests in tech representing that community across Chicago, but specifically across our Black and Latina community. So welcome to all of the amazing entrepreneurs that are going to be here today. If this is your first time joining us, I am Desiree Vargas Wrigley, and I am the Executive Director of TechRise by P33, which is an initiative that was started in partnership with Verizon to help support our Black and Latinx founders all the way from idea stage to exit. So each week, 3 to 5 idea to seed stage founders take the stage. They pitch for a few minutes for their businesses, followed by about 4 minutes of Q&A from our amazing judges. And then the judges deliberate live and choose a winner of the somewhere between $20,000 and $50,000 prize. So today it's a $20,000 prize. And I just want to take a quick second to talk about our amazing sponsors for today. So Get Cities is one of the initiatives by Pivotal Ventures, which is a Melinda Gates initiative. So they're in part funding today's prize. And then also Matt Pulley has and his wife, Amanda Freeman, have funded the other part of the prize, and he'll be joining us for the deliberation period. But I think that both of those generous gifts are an example of our, founders coming together and people from our startup community to fund the next generation of founders. And so I really want to encourage other founders to think about the role that you can play in supporting Black and Latinx founders, either with your time or with your networks, or of course with any kind of fortunes you've made from your wonderful exits. But another really important thing to talk about, I think, is the fact that, as you didn't see in the credits, but on average, only 1.9% of venture funding in Chicago is going to Black and Latinx founders in the city. But for women of color, it's actually 0.67% across the United States. Fortunately, with TechRise, we are really making a difference. And so far, we're seeing 65% of the funding through TechRise go to women of color. So excited to be sharing the stage with these amazing women and bringing visibility to your work. But we obviously have a very long way to go. I will say, though, that overall, we've gotten some early TechRise numbers in from the first quarter. And so far, we've seen an 81% increase in the amount of funding going to Black and Latinx founders in Chicago. It's just incredible. Most of them had raised collectively about $1.3 million before coming on. And in just 10 weeks, they've raised an additional $1.1 million, created 29 new, net new full-time jobs, or mix of full-time and part-time jobs in Chicago. And we're seeing an average revenue increase from Q1 to Q2 of 47%. So this really does feel like it's working, and we're really excited to be here continuing on this mission. And so we hope you will continue to join us for all of our future TechRise events. So with that, I would love to introduce our judges. First, we have Samir. You can join us on stage. I don't know if you can see it. Give me 1 second to open up. Okay, so Samir is Chief of Staff at Black VC, a nonprofit organization that is committed to increasing the representation and success of Black investors in venture capital. Samir is also Managing Director of the Investors of Color Network, a consortium of Black, Latinx, Asian, and ally investors that are building wealth through investing in high-growth companies serving communities of color. And prior to that, Samir was Program Officer at VentureWell, where he provided strategic and programmatic leadership for both the U.S. State Department, early stage venture, and angel network development initiatives. So welcome to the stage. And then next we have Mark Phillips, Managing Director at 11 Tribes, an early stage venture fund with a mission to catalyze the potential of purpose-driven entrepreneurs to promote human flourishing. Prior to launching 11 Tribes, Mark was a strategy consultant focused on M&A between corporations and growth stage startups, and he advised on deals totaling more than $500 million, actively supporting clients throughout the due diligence and post-merger integration process. And then our final judge is Tessa Flippen, Director of Tech Nexus, a Chicago-based venture fund investing at the seed stage alongside corporate partners. And prior to venture capital, Tessa founded La Plataforma, a fintech payments platform sending remittance throughout Latin America. So wonderful to have you all here. Thank you. We are really excited to just jump in and get started. So with that, I'm going to invite our first founder to the stage, Lina Quiceno, coming to us with inciting.
Hi, everyone. Okay. So we are going to jump on this. Hi, everyone. We are Inciting. We are Dani and Lina, and we are friends and colleagues since 2008 when we met while studying marketing. And since then, we have been very lucky to work with different clients, big and small. And last year, we have a client that was very interested in data analytics for their products. And we realized for them was super expensive and complicated, but it was something that we have seen happening since 2008 when we started work with different clients. So we start to develop more on our skills. I am focusing on data analytics, doing a master's in business analytics now, and Dani more on product management. And we see these challenges everywhere. And especially now in 2021, we see that only 29% of the firms are experiencing transformational business outcomes. And that's why we are creating Inciting. We are in our idea stage. And the way we want to help with is we want to help companies to take managerial decisions. But how is this going to work? Well, we want something easy, something that is plug and play and only 2 steps. Connect data sources and choose a preferred business matrix where you can get insights and you can get suggestions on what to do with those insights. Because currently, the platforms that exist are only given isolated reports, but how is this going to be different from business intelligence platforms that already exist? Maybe you're wondering. Well, the thing is, this is going to be built from marketers to marketers. We already have a network. We have more than 8 years in experience with this. And that's why we think this solution has to have 3 Bs and 2 As. Bilingual, bicultural, beautiful, affordable, and accessible. Especially beautiful because we feel that data is sometimes perceived as difficult and boring, and people are not able to explain why they want with data. So this is our core differentiations. And what we also want is to have this platform available in Spanish. Why? Because this is gonna make us possible to expand. And we also find that Hispanic firms are facing more difficulties to work with data because they don't have platforms that are made for them. The market size for this business intelligence software in 2021 only in US is $11,700 million. So it's quite big. And how are we going to do to reach that market? Well, we want to leverage on our network. We already have 60 people that is interested in using our product once it's ready in different countries, in different continents. We have people in Americas, in Europe and Africa. So we want to use the word of mouth they are providing to us so they can recommend to other ones that are going to be interested. But we are also going to use SEO, forums, and social media as a support and tactics to get bigger. And this is going to make the work better because firms that takes better decisions has less waste and uncertainty and more wellness and profit. But judges, do you imagine how much revenue can grow your companies with a platform like this? Do you want to be part of this future?
Great. Well, thank you so much. We'll invite the judges on to ask some questions.
Hi, Lina. Can you hear me okay? Gotcha. Lina, thank you so much for the pitch. I really appreciate it. You did a great job. My question is, you think about the initial 60 customers, I think you mentioned, that are interested in the platform. Do you have a specific industry vertical that you're targeting as sort of a beachhead customer?
More than an industry vertical, we are reaching marketers and managers, but also people in sales. We like technology and also B2C products because they already have a lot of data and they use a lot of tech software that we can connect. But we want to test that. Like our approach is to make the minimum viable product and then start to test the market fit to find the vertical that is more appropriate.
Got it. Thank you.
Hey, Lina, I have a question. So is your product B2B or B2C? And can you talk a little bit about the business model behind what you're doing?
Yeah, it's going to be B2B. We want companies and we want to have a subscription model, premium. And we are thinking on testing also the price and depending on the features. we can get. We are thinking on do it freemium according to the number of users, number of data, or data sources we are going to connect. So yeah.
Hey, Lina, great presentation. Thank you for sharing. Question for me around the product, and you mentioned like beautiful is kind of like a important element to it. Can you talk a little bit about why the team that you've compiled so far is able to deliver a product that would be, you know, like a better UI and it's more attractive to the marketers that you're targeting?
Yeah, so our experience always has been to work with UX designers and with software developers that also know about UX design. So in our experience working with clients, we already have software developers and designers that are really good. That's what we always get, like as something good of what we do is that everything is beautiful and functional. And because that's our priority, we feel if people doesn't wanna use something, they won't. It will look complicated, and we see it in the big companies like Power BI today. Like people is not able to work easily with that, so they need someone that is really experienced with it, and still the results are not beautiful. So the ones that get the information are not really getting what they really expect.
I have one. Oh, go ahead, Tessa.
I was going to say one additional question. Can you talk about the types of data that your platform is able to ingest and kind of read and create more understandable insights?
Yeah, so we were thinking to start with 3 models, focus on sales, customers, and product. So for example, we want to have a model that is going to categorize the kind of customers you're having. And then we will need data like from Google Analytics, but also CRMs and owners and data. Like you can also upload your own database or connect it from another sources. But we want to keep it simple in the beginning and focusing on those kind of marketing models that get this kind of data.
Lina, my only thought, my last question is just from a simplicity perspective, if there was one thing about inciting that is going to make customers want to adopt your platform over someone else, right? Because there's a lot of tools that marketers can use. How would you simplify the platform and say, hey, this is the one reason folks are going to use our platform and not someone else?
Yeah, we help to make sense of data. The other platforms don't do that. They make you to do it. You have to make sense of data. We are going to give you that.
Got it. Thanks.
Well, thank you so much, Lina. And next, I'm excited to invite BāKIT Box and Carla Medina Jacobson onto the stage. So everyone else can go video off. But Carla, I think you might not be unmuted.
Yep, I got it.
Okay, great. Well,
can you see my screen okay?
We can see it great, yes.
Perfect, okay. So Carla Medina Jacobson, and this is BāKIT Box, and welcome to Baking Made Easy. Our company's mantra is that BāKIT Box will be the go-to source for trendy, fun, and accessible baking projects. Given the number of times you've heard people use the words banana bread and yeast in the last few months, baking has unsurprisingly had an unprecedented growth last year, with 1/3 of adults baking more frequently. This growth is forecasted to continue into 2021 as baked goods become more and more synonymous with snacking and with baking being tied to mental and emotional well-being. So what is BāKIT Box trying to solve for? Baking isn't easy. Looking up a recipe for chocolate chip cupcakes can yield hundreds of results with different opinions on the best ratio for sugar to cocoa to flour. And that can be a little overwhelming. Additionally, it's a pain to buy all of the ingredients needed for one recipe, and then you have flour sitting in your pantry for the next 5 months. We've created a product that makes baking easy and fun with all of the ingredients, including eggs and milk included. We offer our customers a changing selection of recipes to keep them inspired and eager to be part of our community. Our model is simple. Customers order their recipes online, we deliver everything to their door, and they get to bake a delicious recipe. Our target market based on surveys and actual customers has primarily been young women professionals and families with young children, including grandparents. Through initial customer research, we have found that our kits provide three things. 1, convenience. Everything is pre-measured and there's zero waste. 2, a fun experience. It's fun for all ages and provides quality family and friend time. And 3, education. This allows our customers to learn more about baking techniques and tips. The US baking industry as a whole represents a $40 billion industry, where $15 billion is specific to baking mixes and kits. Based on the ratio of Chicago's population to the US, Chicago alone could represent upwards of $400 million in addressable market. As a fully launched business, we're actively capturing market share today via our direct-to-consumer site. Be sure to check our site after this. On Talk, where you can purchase kits, selling at local farmers markets, and through deals we've made with corporate companies such as McKinsey to provide BāKIT box as an alternative to traditional team appreciation gifts. While having only operated for a few months, we have delivered over 200 boxes and have Instagram following of over 400 followers. We've been featured by prominent TikTokers as well as influencers. Our future strategy involves furthering our reach by expanding into a hybrid model that includes a la carte and subscription. We want to launch a mobile app, and we also are going to sell via grocery stores. Mariana's, here we come. While there are a few competitors in the baking kit space, none of them are like BāKIT box, in that we include all of the ingredients from perishable items to everything else you would need. We offer way more in terms of selection and options, from sweet to savory and from just traditional to cultural. Our empanada recipe has been a huge hit. We're currently raising a $500,000 pre-seed round. This specific grant would go to our website revamp centered around an integration with Shopify. This would be critical to allow us to launch our subscription model, as well as build out our platform for our customers to access video tutorials, detailed recipes, and other community features. A little bit about the founders. So Carla Medina Jacobson, I was born in Puerto Rico. I was raised in the southwest suburbs of Chicago. I studied hospitality and I took culinary courses in undergrad and have experience working at a tech startup here in Chicago. I met my co-founder, Shelly Gupta, at University of Chicago's Booth School of Business, where we became fast friends. She comes from an entrepreneurial family who has ties to the food and beverage industry, which has enabled us to work with the leading food vendor, giving us a competitive production margin at an early stage. We've received press and recognition from a number of organizations in Chicago, including The Hatchery, which is a prominent food incubator in Chicago that partners with PepsiCo Ingredient, as well as 1871 and the Polsky Center. Based on our current
I'm sorry to cut you off. I gotta cut you off. We can save it for the judges. The judges are coming on right now, and you guys can cover some of these topics then.
Hi, everybody.
Hey, Carla, great pitch. And I just want to say I've tried BāKIT box and love it. So my question is, so can you talk a little bit about the logistical side of what you guys are doing and direct to consumer home delivery? Just wanted to learn a little bit more about what that looks like.
Yeah, so we're currently working out of the hatchery today. And so my co-founder, I actually go in along with some others to build the actual boxes. And then from there, we work with a trucking company to distribute where the boxes go, right? So we have, we work with Better Trucks here in Chicago to distribute those boxes to our customers.
Carla, great job. I haven't tried it. I am going to go on the website after this. I think my wife is going to love it. I have two questions. What is the product set right now? So how vast is that? And then how do you want to grow it? And then the follow-up is more around, how do I put it? Let's call it the break-even point. As you think about the business model, there's obviously a lot of upfront investment. You need to hire a pastry staff, as I saw in the use of funds, which was really helpful. How do you think about the break-even? How many products do you have to sell to get to a point where the business is sustainable?
So I'll answer your first question on the product set today, and then I'll have my co-founder Shelly jump in on the second piece. On the product set today, we have at any given time 5 products available, and those change. So we try to keep them from sweet to savory. We have kid-friendly options, and we have what we're calling now the essentials. So think of a traditional vanilla cupcake and chocolate chip cookies, but then we get into more, wild ones like the empanadas or something a little bit more cultural. And then on your second question, in terms of break even, I'm going to pass it over to Shell.
Hi everyone, I'm Shelly Gupta. To answer your question, so as Carla mentioned, we're raising $500K for our pre-seed round, which is getting us through 1 year of operations within Chicago. Our goal is to break even in about 18 months or so. And that is under the assumption that we can get between 300 and 500 subscribers in Chicago, as well as a certain percent of a la carte in addition to that. Our kits are $25 to $30, as she mentioned. So that consistency of the subscribers will definitely help us grow. And that's the goal for this grant money.
Thanks.
Carla, Shelly, no, thank you for the presentation. I tried to make some bread over the COVID and it was terrible. So I think I might have to look into it. And so I'm curious to hear how y'all are thinking about the competitors, and specifically, obviously there's in the food subscription space, there's obviously some heavy hitters and folks that are throwing a lot of capital just from for a market to capture more and more market share. So how are y'all thinking about them if they were to come into the baking space?
Yeah, actually, some of them have. So Home Chef actually has offered now desserts, but they're pre-made. So that's one thing that helps us differentiate ourselves, is that, you come to BAKIT Box specifically because you want to do the activity of baking, not just having a dessert on the side of your meal. Another competitor who's kind of fallen in this space is I can't remember her name. Martha Stewart. Martha Stewart's company has also had baking options, and we've actually tried those versus ours. We find that ours is much more simplistic, which is a lot easier for who we're trying to target, especially when we talk about like families and making it a family activity, which I think is really important as part of this business model.
That makes sense. Thank you.
Great, we're at time, so we're going to invite our next founder onto the stage. Great job, Carla. So next we have Anna DeShawn from E3 Radio.
Greetings, and thank you so much for this opportunity to pitch today. Have you ever been this red peg, walked into a room and been the only one of you in a space? Well, that is absolutely my story. As a Black queer woman living in America, organizations, systems, apps were not built or designed with me in mind. And let me tell you a little bit more. Here's a snapshot of 50 top podcasts on Spotify's network across category. Across these 50, there's over 100 hosts, and only 7 identify as Black, Indigenous, or a person of color. Now, is this because BIPOC folks aren't creating podcasts? Absolutely not. It's because of the lack of investment and visibility for BIPOC and queer trans people of color creatives. We're here to change that with The Cube. The Cube is a curated destination of music and podcasts by BIPOC and QTPOC creatives. One of my favorite quotes: if they don't give you a seat at the table, bring a folding chair. Well, we've brought our chairs to podcasting, and I truly believe it's time for us to build our own table. I am Anna DeShawn. My pronouns are anything respectful. I'm a social entrepreneur, born and raised on the South Side of Chicago, with over 10 years of experience in live streaming and online events. Here's a snapshot of queer media today: magazines, radio, television, all respectable in their own rights, but none centering the experiences of queer trans people of color. Enter my passion project I started in 2009, which I'm happy to say is my full-time job now, called E3 Radio. Today, we're an online radio station playing queer and independent music in high rotation with a hip hop and R&B vibe. Here is a snapshot also of influential artists, activists, organizations, actors that I've had the pleasure of interviewing on the station. Now, the question we get all the time is, Anna, how do I listen on the go? Well, the team and I knew that we needed to create an app and that we needed to include podcasting. So with our radio station and podcasts, you get The Cube, a destination centering BIPOC and QTPOC listeners and creatives. So for our listeners, when you go in to set a preference, not just by topic or category, you can also choose by identity. Now, for our creatives, we know we need to close the gap on financial equity when it comes to creatives. So we want to make this an app where they can make money. So we're going to have an ad revenue sharing program and also tipping features. The audio market is booming. There are over 2 million podcasts in the marketplace, and 41% of those listeners identify as BIPOC. The industry is projected to be $14 billion this year, and there's a big blue ocean that we are looking to fill a need for. We know to reach them, the best way to do it is through podcast advertising. 61% of podcast listeners actually act on the advertising heard on the podcast. We'll also leverage events, conferences, word of mouth, and social media. Our revenue model looks much like other media outlets, but because of our social angle, grants and fundraising is part of our strategy as well. We're currently in development. We're going to be moving to user testing soon, and the goal is to launch in October of this year. Our team is comprised of musicians, artists, entrepreneurs with over 30 years of experience. Our Cube team is comprised of podcast hosts and producers, consumers who are ready to not only listen and curate the podcasts, but also create exclusive content for our app. Help us turn some of those blue pegs red and fill a huge need in the market. Help us bring the Cube to life. Thank you so much.
Great, and now we will bring on the judges for some questions. Tessa, you want to go first?
Sure. Thanks for the pitch. Love the concept. You mentioned a little bit about an ad revenue share, I believe. And so I'm wondering, like, from the content creator's perspective, can you talk about how, like, the revenue coming to them is competitive in the current marketplace? Just because I'm not super familiar with, like, content producers and how that works.
Sure, yeah, absolutely. So today, oftentimes, people are syndicating their podcasts, Apple, Spotify, right, are some of our competitors, Radio Cast, Castbox, Stitcher. They don't offer revenue sharing, right? So many of these content creators are going out to Patreon, right, to get their subscribers and to garner revenue. Oftentimes also, this is a podcast or an extension of someone's marketing plan. So some folks aren't looking to make any revenue. What we're saying is there's definitely a gap in equity, right? And we know that creatives do not get paid. So what we want to do is create an equitable ad revenue sharing program based upon their own listenership that they're bringing into the app. And so we're developing what that looks like, but we definitely have the foundation and like the ethical stance on where we want it to go.
And thank you for sharing, and I love what you're building. I'm curious to learn a little bit about how you're approaching kind of like the recruitment of the hosts and the viewers, and part of the question is also around, you know, obviously like the ad revenue is predicated on enough viewers being on the Cube for the advertisers to want to go on there. So like, how are you approaching that? And I guess a follow-up question is like, is there a minimum threshold that you're targeting that you feel like will then become attractive to companies trying to advertise?
Yeah, great question. So when it comes to creatives and hosts, we're looking at going at the network level. So while we're doing our research, we're finding that there's a lot of networks popping up to cultivate these communities. So for example, there's a Women of Colors podcast network. There's the Asian American podcast network. There's the Black Effect network, right? DCP. There's all these networks of folks who are podcasters, Afros and audio, who are creating spaces, having virtual conferences and getting together and as think tanks. So we're going for the networks that are already syndicating and creating these communities and saying, hey, we're creating this space and another avenue for you to amplify your work and also reach your target audiences far easier than trying to be part of a 2 million directory, right? We're also saying that we're not looking to have every podcast by a BIPOC and QTPOC creative, because we know all content is not good content. We want to have the best of the best content. So we have a podcast listening team who is curating every piece of content going into the app. We've created what we call a Kubrick, which is a measurement of the things that we believe create a good podcast: content creation, the intro, the consistency. And so right now I'm really targeting to have 50 to 100 podcasts when we launch, because we really just want to have the best of the best.
Thank you.
Anna, thanks for sharing your vision. I really appreciated it. Kind of two-part question. How do you think about, I'll call it exclusivity? So would there be an opportunity to use other major platforms called Spotify, Apple Podcasts, et cetera, or would this be exclusive? And then the second part is, as you think about the roadmap, what's the financial investment that you need to make the next step? Is it getting to the MVP? Where does the business itself stand?
Sure. So can you give me the first question again?
Yeah, totally. So in terms of exclusivity, I guess is the phrase I used, would you want to syndicate this with other platforms like Spotify, right? To sort of increase the viewership and allow your creators to have a larger influence over the marketplace?
Right. Desiree is here. So
I'm cutting you off. Yeah, I'm sorry. Maybe we can cover it later post-production and you can follow up with them individually.
That's great.
But
all good. Thanks, Desiree.
Sorry, we're over on time, but
thanks, Anna.
Yeah,
great job, Anna. Okay, and now for our final competitor, we have Cynthia Nwaubani from PharmD Live.
Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
All right. Hello, everyone. I'm Cynthia Nwaubani, CEO and founder of PharmD Live. PharmD Live is a pharmacist-driven telehealth company, and we're on a mission to save lives through our disease and medication management solutions. As a pharmacist, I've witnessed countless number of medication-related problems in patients. One of those patients was Mrs. Smith. 6 years ago, Mrs. Smith bled to death due to an unintentional medication overdose. That fatal incident could have been easily prevented. I founded PharmD Live to prevent adverse drug events in patients. Our healthcare system is fragmented, especially for the chronically ill senior patients who are on several medications. 50 million cases of adverse drug events occur every year, making it the fourth leading cause of death. In America today, 750 seniors will be hospitalized due to an adverse drug event. And we at PharmD Live are the solution to these problems through our chronic care management and remote patient monitoring solutions. Our solutions are powered by our AI-driven telehealth technology. Our technology aggregates patient data, identifies all the medication risks and disease care gaps, assigns risk scores, stratifies and ranks them, and then suggests safer and personalized medication regimen pathways for patients. Our business model is B2B, and we partner with physicians, hospitals, and payers to deliver our solutions. The average revenue for our solution is $1,000 per patient per year. These are the major competitors within the chronic care management space. Our major differentiator is our patent-pending technology, which predictively analyzes over 100 data points to identify, predict, and prevent medication risks and disease care gaps in patients. PharmD Live is the only telehealth company with a nationwide network of pharmacists who are available 24/7 around the clock for our patients and also for the physicians to provide a personalized medication management versus the one-size-fits-all approach that we do have today. Our solutions empower physicians to deliver the highest quality of care to their patients. And also for the patients, we help them save costs, stay healthier, and also stay out of the hospitals. This market is fully funded by Medicare, but largely underserved. We've just signed up 4 new doctors' offices as customers, and we've been recognized by Johnson & Johnson, Illinois Critical Access Hospital Network, etc. We have a very strong pipeline, currently over $300 million. And we're projecting enrolling 8,000 patients in our solutions by month 12. As a board-certified senior care pharmacist, I am a medication management expert and I'm skilled in healthcare informatics, practice in many reputable organizations. I've also assembled a team of clinicians, health IT experts, and business professionals with a proven track record of scaling multiple startups with successful exits. This TechRise Award will help us with our new customer onboarding packets and also go live operations next month. If Mrs. Smith was our patient, our pharmacist would have utilized our technology to identify all her medication risks and predict the likelihood of her bleeding. Her physician would have been armed with this clinical intelligence. Her doses would have been personalized for her, and she would have still been alive today. I envision a world where preventable adverse drug events are completely eradicated at the intersection of personalized healthcare and technology. Thank you for your time, and I'll be glad to take your questions.
Great. I will welcome the judges back on stage. And Samira, if you want to go first, that'd be great.
Sure, thank you. And Cynthia, I appreciate you sharing, and you're really solving a very important problem, and I appreciate kind of walking through the storyline. I'm curious to hear a little bit about, like, you mentioned obviously the majority of these patients are covered by Medicare. Would PharmD be reimbursable?
Yes, all our solutions are reimbursable via CPT codes for the chronic care management and remote patient monitoring solutions that we do offer. Yes.
Oh, cool. Thank you.
Samir took my question. That's a really good. That's a really good answer too. So that's fantastic. Cynthia, tell us about sort of the state of the business. Where is it at? You talked a little bit about the use of funds, but what are the major milestones for you in the next 6 months?
So in terms of where we are as a business, we are actually, we've brought on board 4 new customers with the potential of about 1,000 patients for these new customers. And we are currently raising our seed round now for $1 million. That will be followed by our Series A round of $10 million when we have enrolled 8,000 patients in our solutions. And we've also grown our team to about 75 employees right now. We have a fully functioning executive team. We also have a clinical pharmacy team. We have an in-house development team, software developers in-house. And we have a full-fledged sales and business development and marketing teams as well within our organization.
Wow, impressive.
Thank you.
Hey, Cynthia, one more question for you. Can you talk about, so you mentioned like remote patient monitoring, and I'm wondering if you can talk about how you're doing that remote monitoring. Are there sensors or wearables involved, and what are those companies that you're partnered with on that end?
Correct, yes. So for our remote patient monitoring program, there we focus on the gathering and evaluating actionable patient data from their devices, and that allows us to proactively intervene to prevent an ER visit, unnecessary hospitalization, et cetera. And so we've partnered with a third-party device manufacturer for their FDA-approved devices. And so the devices that we do offer, pretty much all the wearables, we're able to connect with all the wearables via our UI, but also specifically for disease management, we send out the glucometers for diabetics, the blood pressure monitors, and also the scales for patients who have congestive heart failure. In the fall, we'll also roll out our spirometers and also the pulse oximeters for patients who have respiratory problems.
We actually have time for one more question if someone wants to ask a follow-up.
I can ask another question. So can you talk about the sales cycle? Like, I imagine selling into hospitals or pharmacies it takes a while. So I'm just wondering, like, what does that look like as far as getting customers signed up and onboarded?
Correct. Yeah. So the sales cycle, there's a lot of variability within the sales cycle. It depends on which particular vertical within the healthcare space that we're targeting. For the independent physician practices, those where you have the decision maker at a single location, that's usually a shorter sales cycle, which is about 3 to 6 months. For the larger health systems, we're actually in discussions with a very large health system in the Chicago area for about 450,000 patients. And so for that system, we've been discussing with them for about 6 to 7 months now. We have finally gotten it to the legal agreement phase. And so their legal counsel is actually reviewing our contract. So it depends on the size of the organizations. So the length and complexity of the cycle would vary from customer to customer. So we're utilizing both approach. We're going after those customers, those physician practices who are either independent or smaller practices, and then also targeting the larger whales, the health systems, and the larger players. So all of those are all on our pipeline. And so we have about 5 health systems in Chicago, in New York, one also in New Jersey, and in California. So, and then we have a multitude of the smaller smaller to mid-sized physician practices that we're also in discussions with because of this variability in the sales cycle.
All right. Excellent job, Cynthia. Thanks so much. I think all of the founders have given the judges a difficult next kind of 8 to 10 minutes. So I don't want to be in their shoes, but I am grateful that they are here, and they're going to pop over to a breakout room. And I am excited to invite 2 of my wonderful CTO friends. We have Matt Pulley and Chirag Patel joining us right now, hopefully on video on soon. All right, so Matt, you have seen before, hopefully, as a guest judge previously on TechRise, and as I mentioned, one of our generous sponsors for today. He was the CTO at Home Chef, as we've shared, for 5 years. He had the amazing many decimal point growth while he was there. And he's currently on sabbatical and enjoying being a dad while he thinks about what is next. And then Chirag is actually an investor of mine, and I'm very grateful for him to be here. He has 17 years of experience engineering, launching, and growing digital products, including senior health wearables, patient education tablet network, Obama's 2012 pioneering digital platforms, and enterprise telecom solutions. And one of the reasons I'm so excited to have you both here is that as two really empathetic CTOs and thoughtful in terms of how you build your teams, I'm excited to talk about what it means to think about having a representative tech team built from the ground up and how it kind of affects the product and the company as a whole as you grow and scale. So I am going to jump in with a few questions. So it would be great if both of you could share a little bit about your career trajectory, kind of like how you got to where you are and whether or not being CTO was always part of the goal, or if it just kind of happened. So Matt, you want to go first?
Sure. Yeah, I'm a software engineer, so I just began my career writing code. The idea of CTO kind of seemed pretty far out there, but I came to it through entrepreneurship. So first as a founder of a bootstrap company, and then joining some VC-backed companies at MVP. So the title of CTO sort of came like, okay, we're growing, and now I have to kind of hire a team and build a team this is great, but how do I do that? But I found that I really enjoyed that part, and bringing people on the team and seeing them grow and create a healthy environment to build amazing products.
Awesome. Chirag?
Hi, apologies for the background noise. If it's a problem, let me know. But for me, it's almost the same story as Matt. I came through it from the entrepreneur angle as a founder, a couple times over, early stage employee. And, the thought was like Matt, the thought was never so much, I want to be a CTO, but I want to solve these problems, and I want to, grow the company and, produce high performing product and technology. So, for me, CTO just fell in the lap, and that's what I needed to do. And I not to put it lightly, it's a lot of responsibility with it, both in terms of technology and leadership. And I learned those things along the way. But I would say the thing for me, the most important thing is that, honestly, looking back on it, I wish I would have garnered more mentorship and more conversations around this. And really, what's the equation that makes me happy, right? For me, it's a cross between product, business, and technology. That makes me happy. It's very early stage, Series A. That's my home, right? I don't know if it took me a long time to realize that, and for some of you on this call, it's a different equation. So for me, I really wish I would have talked to more mentors, talked to more people that have gone through it before me and learned from that. So, and I'm still doing it today. So yeah, that's my story.
Well, it's definitely never too late, right? But I think it's a great kind of point to kick off on, and that is that there are a lot of aspiring technical talent members of our communities, in Chicago and across the country. And I think, I'm going to skip ahead to one of the questions, but I think that it's often a bit of a confidence challenge for people who have, don't see themselves as fully technical. And they may not realize all of the, roles that are available to them not having a computer science degree. So I'm going to jump around a little bit and throw questions at you randomly now, but can you give some advice to some early career people or people wanting to switch careers, especially women and people of color who might think, I don't have everything on that job description, but could bring a lot to potentially product management or, leading Scrum or being on the discovery side of design thinking. So let's kind of hand it over with that.
Yeah, I can start with that one. I think that, so I love the mentorship side. So I will say that Chirag is right. And there are so many, I know for sure in Chicago, I'm guessing in other communities, people willing to help. So I think just you've got, asking for help. And I know that there are a lot of people that will do that. So that's a big aspect. But I think that the folks, whether you're a coder or product or Scrum or IT, that over the next decade plus that are going to have the competitive advantage as an employee in tech are those that are that show the empathy and have those core skills. These are not hard technical skills like coding, but the ability to see through others' eyes, the having growth mindset, valuing learning. So when showcase those traits, I think when you're going through an interview, when you're talking to people, when you're networking, because those are, I think, more important than the technical aspects of writing up a spec or coding something out. So there's a lot of core skills that you can focus on that really, I believe, will be the competitive advantage for an individual in tech, no matter what the role.
I completely agree with that. There's tons and tons of mentors willing to help and want to help. Like they feel happiness from helping. And like me, for example, I really want to do it. And from a tech point of view, say you're an engineer, there's many open source projects on GitHub. I say this all the time, with phenomenal developers looking to help mentor and coach you, to write pull requests on this GitHub repo. And I've done it myself. I joined an organization maybe 10 years ago. I was 35. And there's called the Chicago Independent Radio Network, a bunch, this online Chicago radio network, and they needed technology. So I came in and was coding, and somebody 10 years younger than me was helping me out and mentoring me on some of the tech stack. So there's tons and tons of projects like that are available. And then the second thing I would say is, like if you're not ready for a certain job, right, as a PM or a developer, you can still go to that company or that hiring manager and say, hey, let's have an open conversation about where I'm at. Where am I at? How can I be ready? What can I do in the next 3 months to be ready, or the next year? Do those things, learn those skills, join a GitHub project, and come back in 3 months, come back in a year and say, hey, I've done it. And sometimes it's not instant. Sometimes getting that job or getting that position is an instant. So, but I find that being open about it, your weaknesses and setting goals really helps a lot.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I think we learned that in the startup journey, no matter what, right? Like the relationships that you build, you have no idea where they're going to lead. And sometimes they lead to investment, sometimes they lead to mentorship, sometimes they lead to job opportunities that then lead to all of the above. And so, building those connections and getting out there is so crucial. But I guess to kind of contextualize the bigger why of this conversation, and I'd love to hear from your perspectives, why is it so important to have, representation on a tech team beyond kind of the obvious, like trying to avoid bro culture? Like ultimately there's, a bottom line benefit to this. And I'd love to hear it in your words. Don't all speak at once.
I think that there's a lot of scientific evidence as well as anecdotal evidence of what the highest performing teams do, whether they're tech teams or not. And I do, those sort of traits are, they value diverse perspectives, they value learning, and they value, they have empathy and awareness, self-awareness and social awareness. So those traits build better products and better companies. And, the anecdotal evidence in you as an individual's world, you may have seen the opposite. You may have seen what a toxic culture will do or something like that. But, those traits do, the diversity of your team and the diversity of your perspectives that you bring to the table and allow to come to the table, that is what builds a better product and a better company, especially, I think a lot of early stage and founders are listening, to this, especially early on. That's setting the foundation so that when you are bigger and you do grow, you have that baked into your DNA, that we want people to appropriately challenge us and learn new things. We're not 100% right all the time.
Matt, I'm just letting you go first every time, so that's how it's working.
Okay.
But I'm finding I'm completely agreeing with you on everything, and I think this whole building the DNA thing, totally. Like if you guys look at my screen, my company's called Deploy, and we just recently finished writing our core values, You know, it was a bit of a grueling exercise because it took many meetings, many opinions, and many inputs, but it ended up being fabulous. And if you see here, one of these things are about empathy, about humility, about growing as partners, right? So for us, you know, that aligns completely with inclusion and diversity, right? So whether it's a person of color, whether it's a woman, or even if it's a shy white tech guy, right? It's a similar experience, right? Where you feel disadvantaged, you feel shy, you feel you're not heard, right? But that diversity, that, you know, different perspective, I agree, does, in our case, because we have a human-centric product, does add to, you know, a better product and a stronger team, you know? So like for us, like aligning it with the core values has helped a lot.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I think probably reassuring too, that you just put together your core values, given that you've been a company for quite a while. And, you know, some people think like, oh, is it too late for us to really do this? Our culture's already been so developed. But I think there's always an opportunity for you, you know, any team to come in and redefine what matters most. You're constantly doing it with your product. Like, why can't you do it with your culture and your norms? And that is, you know, part of my next question, which is around, you know, we've talked a little bit about like what individuals can do to come into the tech scene, but it's just as much, if not more, the responsibility of the startup founders and senior leadership, and even the rest of the team, to make sure that those values get lived and that the hiring practices and, you know, process represents the outcome that you're going for. So I'm curious, you know, what do you all see as opportunities for improvement for our startup community to better engage, you know, future tech talent of color, but also of diverse backgrounds, from a socioeconomic perspective, from an education perspective, from a physical capabilities perspective? How can we improve as an ecosystem?
Yeah, I want to point out on Chirag's first line that that slide was a human-centric system. And one of the key learnings that I've had, it goes into this answer, is we're building a lot of technical solutions. A lot of the founders who pitched today are building a product of some sort. But it really matters the human systems around those. Who is building them and how you interact with each other, whether it's your stakeholders or the team. So that making sure you know, you look at your organization as a living ecosystem is a huge part. And in that, just like we do with ourselves, we're always learning. The organization is always learning and growing. The organization and the team should know more on month 3 and month 12 than it did, you know, that time ago. So I think it's that's part of valuing that learning system, which it makes it a lot easier for the belonging aspect of the folks coming into your team.
Anything else? Chirag?
Yes. So for me, you know, like we have, you know, just to show my example, I wanted to show my example with our hiring. I have like a 25-person tech team. And, you know, Desiree sent me these questions in advance of how are we ensuring that this diverse hiring practice is part of our process. And, you know, honestly, I was a little concerned I'm going to disappoint Desiree, to be honest, because it's seriously, like, it's like, because it's such a crazy hiring market right now. It's insane for tech and product talent. Like, I feel like a wild animal hunting for meat, to be honest, at times. And just to show you, like, good influence helps, right? With Desiree including me in this panel, and I'll explain what I mean by that. Is here, we have our talent pipeline, and, you know, we have a couple of recruiters, Manuel and Valentina, they handle it. And you can see referrals as part of it, headhunters in South America, dev shops, passive search. But you don't see minority channels here, right? The tragedy of it is we have minority channels, right? And our VC, in fact, provided those channels, right? Which is the Black Tech Pipeline, Women Who Code, She Geeks Out. But somehow it's not high priority. It's not on this slide. Like, why not, right? Because, you know, just to be honest, like, my thinking around it has been, well, what are the probability of producing a good match? You know, it's hard to say, but it's an excuse in the end, right?
Well,
so
I do have to get us.
know,
Wait, I got to get us back on track on time, because this has been a great discussion and I got sidetracked too. But I do appreciate you actually showing things as part of this fireside chat and owning the fact that, you know, as much as we have intentions and we're here talking about it, we don't always act out our intentions. And I think that's true as founders, as leaders, and it's, constant practice to bring it back and remind ourselves, to do to walk the walk. And that's how things are going to change. So do you mind going, perfect, display off and everyone else coming back on. It looks like the judges are ready to announce the winner of today's prize. Before they do that, I just want to remind everyone that you are all winners for being here and you're all welcome back on the TechRise stage. We're really excited to support you on your journey. And this is just one piece of that roadmap in terms of how TechRise is supporting founders of color. So everyone's a winner. And special thanks to Get Cities and to Matt Pulley and Amanda Freeman for this wonderful sponsorship. And with that, who is going to be announcing our winner?
I'm going to be doing it.
All right, Tessa, go for it.
Thank you everybody for letting us come in and judge. We've had a great time learning and listening to all of these women of color pitch their concepts and ideas. It was a close race, but our winner for today is BāKIT Box.
Woo!
So congratulations, ladies.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I was like, can I speak now? I'm so excited. I've lost my voice. Yeah, this is so exciting. Thank you so, so much.
Well, great. Well, congratulations to both of you. And also congratulations to the rest of the founders here. You're building really incredible companies. And we, like I said, can't wait to support you. Next week, we will be back with our seed stage competition. Slightly smoother opening tech sequence, I hope, and we'll get everything back on track. And then thank you guys so much, Matt and Chirag, for being here and talking about what can be sometimes a challenging topic. So again, you can find everything you need about TechRise at techrise.co. If you're a founder with an idea, please come and apply, techrise.co/apply. You don't need a website. You don't even need an LLC or a C Corp, you just need an idea. And if you are already in the market and you have a company, come join us, pitch on this stage and get some acceleration capital. And with that, I will let you all enjoy your weekends and thank you again for being here.
Thank you.